Lincoln Riley and USC have joined Nebraska, Ohio State, Texas, and others in canceling their spring game. Coach, I know that this is college football is different. They're a different era. This is the Wild Wild West. Different. Everything's different now. Where everyone's canceling their spring games. Nebraska and Matt Rule have say it's due to tampering and their players getting poached. I think Sark and Texas kind of have a different reason behind canceling their spring game. And now Lincoln Riley and USC have joined suit. Coach, what do you got to say about Lincoln Riley canceling USC spring game?
I don't know, man. I'm hearing a lot of crazy things here in LA from high school coaching buddies of mine, high school coaches. We're going to have on this show to talk about LA in totality because LA high school coaches are not pleased with him. A couple buddies of mine just attended a Black Coaches Association that was held at SoFi Stadium this past weekend. Pete Carroll attended and spoke briefly and left. A lot of big-name coaches went to it. Lincoln was also there, I heard, a couple of his staff. And they did a coaching clinic there at SoFi. Cisco and a few others were there with their staffs. And rumors out of there are that their recruiting class has been really good. They've had a real good recruiting class this offseason. And a good friend of mine is responsible for bringing the players in there. He's been there as the interim before. And the rumors are that he is on the discussion block as being Lincoln's head coach replacement earlier than later. And I found that interesting out of this weekend when the rumblings from the schools, the high school coaches were saying that the rumors are that they want him out of SC because he has not really brought LA into USC. The community, the surrounding South Central high school coaches. When you lose St. John Bosco and modern day high school players, and the coaches don't want anything to do with you at USC anymore. When Pete Carroll used to have the gates open for practice and Snoop Dogg and Debo and fucking you name it, we're at practice and the music was glaring and you invited all the high school coaches to come in and clinic actually during spring practice. And it was a big deal. When you shut the gates and tell high school coaches in LA that we don't allow open practice, there's a problem, dog. And you're the fucking staple in LA as a college football program, and you're shutting it down to high school surrounding coaches and neighborhoods. You can't be loved in a city of LA. I could see the rumors flaring around that they want him out of there. And you failed. You failed right. So far through 3 years. You failed, and you've literally, I can argue, you've gotten worse every year. Yeah. Every year. So, it is what it is. I don't know what JJ Redick has to do with fucking football, but apparently it does in the chat to a bunch of fucking nobodies. Here's the issue.
Spring game. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now, why are you canceling spring? Why are we canceling? So, again, we're adhering to the players' narrative and the NCAA, Non-Carrying Nationals of America, who refuse to stand on business and call out other poaching programs for stealing players. Mm-hmm. And if Nebraska and Matt Rule and Day at Ohio State, who just won the Natty, I would argue they're not doing a spring ball because the season's so long now that you have gone into your winter conditioning and spring season because your fucking college national championship ended, 3.5 weeks ago, barely?
Yeah, like a month, yeah.
So you're already into the new year when you play your national championship, when most places are getting ready for spring ball, winter conditioning, etc. I would argue Ohio State's not worried about getting their players poached as they are trying to get back healthy and refreshed because they just had a fucking 12-month damn season almost. So, I mean, let's be honest, their season's now 8 months long.
Yeah, so it's a lot longer season for sure.
We're turning this into professional football. It's a matter of a few years before spring ball is absolved and we don't even have it anymore. So, but Nebraska's come out and said, we don't want our guys poached, so we're not going to do spring ball. To me, that's a cop-out. I like Matt Rule and all that, but, like, come on, man. I'm not losing my player. I'm not. Right. I'm gonna have my fucking spring ball wherever you want. Mm-hmm. Now, Lincoln Riley in LA to cancel that, it's even worse for the high school guys in LA that don't have anything to do during this time of the year to bring their players up to school, see campus, meet coaches, do all those things. I think it's even a bigger loss for a guy like SC to not have spring ball. And I know Sark has done it recently as well at Texas.
I don't think that Lincoln Riley would have canceled it for tampering reasons. I think I don't think USC and Nebraska and Texas have the same, recruiting issues like Nebraska with getting their players poached. But one thing I want to show is Sark talking about why Texas canceled their spring game and see if you think that relates to Lincoln Riley canceling their spring game. Just take a listen to this.
We come to spring
Are we
practice?
not having a spring game?
No, we're not going to have a spring game.
Wow, breaking news. You're the best coach, Sark. And we're just.
Well, I think a couple reasons why. Over the last 2 years, we've played 30 games.
Yeah,
and that's a lot for college football. Yes. 14 2 years ago, 16 this year. And I just mentioned we've had 25 guys get invited to the NFL Combine the last 2 years. So we've got a lot of young players on our roster. We have 21 mid-year high school kids that just showed up. And so the development that's needed for these guys to get ready for the fall is a little bit different than it used to be. And so our approach is going to be a little bit more NFL-driven, kind of more of an OTA style early on. And as we grow into more of the scrimmage formats in the second half of spring ball, that I just don't know rolling the ball out, playing the game when we only get 15 practices is the best for us to maximize the opportunities that we get. So it's going to be a little bit of a different approach, but I think college football's changed.
Coach, what are your thoughts on Sark's comments on why Texas canceled their spring game, and do you think USC is in the same boat as them?
Listen, as a guy growing up with Sark, JUCO product, I'm kind of disappointed in Sark taking this approach, but I also have never been in his shoes and had, hundreds of millions of dollars at my disposal as far as facilities, resources, oil money that they have in Austin, plus collectives paying millions, $20+ million rosters. I've never had those luxuries, so I can't speak for Sark, obviously. But as a JUCO guy, I would think that we know the grind and what it takes to actually get over the hump. If I'm Sark, I'm just thinking mentally and mentality-wise, I've come up short on arguably two of the most loaded rosters in the last 2 years. One losing to your former school, Washington, and now you lose to Ohio State, right? I don't know if that's the approach that I want to take. I'm kind of like adhering to the soft generation of players that I talk about every day on every show I go on. Right. Like, I want to go harder so we can get over the hump and beat one of these teams and win a natty. So I'm trying to figure out, if you don't do a spring ball, that's fine. But to say that we have a bunch of young players, these young kids play 7-on-7 year round.
Right.
I don't understand why do they need a break? Like, what do we need a break for? These aren't 32-year-old NFL vets that have been in the NFL for 10 years who play 18 games a year. You played 30 games in 2 years, and arguably in the softest generation I've ever seen. Why do we need a break? That's my only issue, my only comment, my only thing. I don't know if it's a cop-out. I don't know what it is. But I don't believe I believe now we're using this break thing so we can actually go find other players to pluck from other schools. Similarly to what Nebraska said is going to happen to them, I think these other schools, by not having spring ball, are actually out there looking to grab other players in the portal and coach their coaches and recruit during this downtime of not being on the football field and having to install, having to do all these things. The bigger picture is this, which I really truly believe it is, and I've said it a few years ago. Why am I coaching a team in the spring that isn't going to be there in the fall?
That's a good point.
That's what I think this is. I don't think it's anything to do. I just think they're telling you what they want you to hear, but I don't think that's the truth. I think the truth is they know damn well that this roster in spring is not going to be the roster in the fall is because of how the NCAA and the portal has allowed football to become. They are going to have 3 portal openings. You're going to have a whole new set of 30 kids in the summer. You're going to get a whole new crew and going to have to reteach your coaches and reteach your players offense, defense, and special teams. And here's the reason why, for a former head coach to tell you, special teams is the number one reason. Because in special teams, if I have a spring ball with special teams, I have a bunch of guys who are renegade type of guys who will probably enter the portal and after spring ball is over, and then I got to reteach kickoff, punt return, and kickoff return to a whole new group of renegades that I don't know if they're going to be there again. So I believe they're tired of reteaching, and this goes back to our show this morning with Sean King. If I'm going to pay you, as PK Subban said, and wanting the best players to get paid all this money, I would be pissed off too, though, in the coaches that are getting 10, 11, 12 million as Sark is. You should be coaching twice, 3 times, 4 times a year if that's what it requires at making 10, 12 million a year.
Yeah.
So there's 2 parts of this. You can take it how you want. I just gave you both sides of it. There's a problem, and I think that if you're demanded and you have to require to coach multiple times during the season, then that's what you need. You're making 10, 11 million a year, dog. And you have private jets. You got fucking golf course memberships. You don't pay for shit. Everything's comped in Texas. You are Texas, let's be real. You should coach a couple times. And I would be coaching my coaches then. But I believe that's the truth.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my next question. If you are the head coach of USC in this wild, wild west era of NIL and transfer portal and college football, and you're the head coach, what are you doing? Are you holding a spring game? Are you not holding a spring game? How would you treat it if you're the head coach?
Yeah, I'm having a spring game. I probably won't have 15 practices, but I'll probably do something. I'll turn my spring game into tryout. Like, not only for coaches, but for my players that I know will be there. I would do some sort of, I would do some mental checking during that time. I just don't see how you're sitting there all spring and doing what? Are you just going to lift and run? Because there's another burnout situation as well. You know, we go from January to March heavy and hard in the weight room and conditioning hard. And then we have spring ball, so we lighten up on weights and conditioning because we have practice now. And then we go back to it for the summer. We get back to conditioning hard and lifting again. And then we dumb it down for fall install and fall camp. Now you're talking about going from January all the way to July with no spring ball in there. Right. So I'm trying to figure out, what are you doing now? I don't know. I'm not going to even talk on it. I don't know. Everyone's going to be different. I'm sure Sark and everybody's going to be different. I just don't know how you don't burn those kids out in that way either. Because football is ultimately the reason they're there. Football is the reason they want to be there. I know these schools make a shitload of money in spring games as well because they sell out arenas at Texas, Tennessee, Ohio State. Their spring games are huge. They're on TV. They're on Big 12 networks, Big 10 networks. Pac-12 SEC network. They have spring games. They cover the spring games. Nick Saban would be at the spring game on film, and they'd be covering them. And we watch their spring games over the year. That's a huge money get too. I want to know when the schools and everybody else is pissed off about that too. I don't know. It's a very slippery slope. But I think we're giving the players too much. The players want paid. They want to be able to enter the portal. They also want NIL deals. They want all this shit. Gimme. Make their asses earn it. Play. Like, have spring practice. I don't know. Like, earn your money. You're fucking making money now. So, I don't know. It's another way of letting them off the hook, in my opinion. And then we get to the season, and what we got? What do we got? How do we know? How do I know?
And we'll break down, the teams that hold the spring game versus don't. I think we'll see a lot. We're seeing a lot of teams elect to not hold the spring game, and we'll see how that affects the development in the offseason leading into the season.